I'm Carolyn Washburn with Utah State University Extension in Washington County. I'm the Family Consumer Science Agent, and one of the areas of my focus is home food preservation. It's certainly enjoyable for families to preserve their own food, especially if they've grown them and harvested them, and then to put them away to use for days during the winter. Today we're going to be talking about making juice and putting it away or using it into a jam or a jelly, or even just bottling juice. There are a lot of ways, a few ways anyway, that we can make juice. Some of these are tools from ages past. You may remember putting your cooking your fruit down and running it through a colander, and then if you wanted it really nice and finely strained, you would run it through gauze cloth. You might have even just used a strainer. And those methods worked quite well, and they still work well today if that's what you have. Some of these methods, when you use them, may give you a little bit of residue in the bottom of your jars of juice, and that certainly isn't harmful. It's just certainly a personal preference. But today we're going to be juicing these beautiful grapes in the steam juicer. Now, do not confuse this with a steam canner that USDA does not recommend and approve for use for home canning. This is simply a juicer to get the juice out of my fruits. It's a wonderful pan. It's so very, very easy to use. It takes a little bit of time. I started by putting on the stove the bottom pan of my juicer. It is my water. It holds my water, and I want to always make sure that I have it full enough of water that it isn't going to run out and burn the bottom of my pan. And then I watch that too, because this is something that I can cook on high or medium high. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the pan together on the stove. This pan is going to collect the juice, and as I put it on, the spigot fits right in a little hole that's been designed for it and hangs over the top. My basket, which is going to hold my fruit, I simply rinsed this fruit and get ready to cook it. I didn't cut it up, I didn't seed it, I didn't take it off the stems. All I did was rinse it well. Now, I could do the same thing with different fruits. A wonderful thing to do with pomegranates, I would simply take and score it, cut the bottom off, pop it apart a little bit, throw that in. I might want to do the same thing with apples. I wouldn't have to peel them. I don't need to take the cores out of them. I would probably half them or quarter them so they would cook a little faster. This is wonderful with prickly pear cactuses. One of the things people are liking to do in Washington County is make cactus jam and jelly, and this is a great little tool for that. So now I'm going to put my lid on. I'm going to sit this right down inside the juice, and I'm going to turn it on high or medium high, and it's going to be cooking for probably half an hour before I start to get juice coming out of it. Now, as the juice comes out, it's going to start to come down through the hose that's clamped off right now, so nothing's going to drip, and then we'll start collecting it. Now, as any product we make from USDA, even though the juice is hot and comes out of the juicer nice and hot and steamy, we're still going to process it in a water bath canner. It will only take about 10 minutes to process, but that is to be sure that we destroy any types of mold or bacteria. Now, we don't have to use a pressure canner on juice and jams and jellies because they are a high acidity food. They come up in the top part of our pH chart, showing us that it has lots of acid in. But I am going to encourage you to make sure that you do process these foods in a water bath canner for the amount of time specified. The juice, whether you can it as a juice or if you turn it into a jam and jelly, those are going to need to be processed. And we'll be talking about those in a little bit as our juice starts coming out and is ready to use. I do need my tools with me today. I need a funnel. This is one of the new funnels on the market. Easy to store because it does collapse. I'm going to need my jar lifter to get my hot jars out of my canner. Just my water here. And today I'm going to be using jars that have been sterilized, and they will be sterilized in boiling water as I bring them out, because I'm only going to be cooking them 10 minutes in a water bath canner. So I want to make sure my juice is hot and that my jar is sitting in sterilized water, keeping hot, ready to use. I will have my jar lifter ready to get my lid out of the pot of water. I don't have to boil my lids, but I will be putting them in boiling water and then simmering them, keeping them nice and warm, ready to put on my jar of juice. I don't boil them because they will make them too soft and they won't have a good seal. Lids are made just a little bit differently anymore. They have a coating on that won't put quite as much acid, or that the acid won't eat off and turn it black with little spots that people often worry about. So they're a little bit different, but I don't boil them, and then I never cinch them up hard. I just finger cinch, just finger tight them on the jars, ready to go. Some of the products that I can make out of my juice once I get it coming is, of course, I can just simply bottle it as juice and have some wonderful grape juice for breakfast or lunch. But I can also make my jams out of my homemade grapes. And jelly makes wonderful. This is jelly. I can go ahead and mix those. I will be using jams and jellies with pectins. Or if I didn't use a pectin, I could go ahead and cook it down. But cooking it down would take a long time with just the juice for a jelly. There are fun jars out there to make your jams and jellies in, and they are certainly great gifts to give to your neighbors for seasonal holidays and birthdays, or just to put on your shelf for your family. Always make sure that you're going to use an approved jar. These jars are they're mason jars. They can be Ball, they may be Kerr, they may be Better Homes and Gardens, but you want to make sure that they're not just old mayonnaise jars or some jars that have been used for other things. Now I can use these jars and reuse them many, many times as long as there are no chips on them, as long as they've been washed and well cared for. They're going to last me a lot of years. But when they get a chip in them, then I'm going to just have to discard it, because I want to make sure that this has a perfect seal on when it seals. Always use an approved jar. The others would possibly break when you put them in to the hot water, and you certainly want a good product. You can tell these jars have been stored without the rings on, because when I'm ready to put them away on the shelf, that's how I store them, without the rings. That way, I don't have to work hard on getting my rings off. They don't rust on. And also, if my jam happened to unseal, sometimes there's enough sticky underneath it that if it had a ring on, it would reseal down. However, the vacuum now has been broken and bacteria could grow in it, and I wouldn't know it. So with keeping that ring off, it would just slip off and I would know it. I always water bath my jams and jellies and juice to kill the mold and bacteria. You know, in old days, if we opened a jar of jam and it had mold on, we simply scooped the mold off and ate the jam. But if there's mold on top, there's going to be mold spores down inside. And more allergies, people have issues with mold, and we just don't want to eat it. It isn't healthy for us. So if we haven't sealed it properly and water bathed it, we could have mold grow on it, and that certainly is something that we don't want on our nice finished product. So now we've got our... Okay. So now we have our grapes in our pot. We're going to just let them cook. We'll keep watching them, make sure the water keeps nice and full, and it will. There's plenty of water in that to cook for these grapes to go ahead and juice down. Now once I take the juice out, all I have left is a compost product. I have the peels, the seeds, the stems, which I can simply throw away, or a lot of people like to collect that and use it as compost in their gardens, feed their animals. So you still have a byproduct, but it isn't anything that we can with, and it certainly made it easy. I'm not going to use a juicer or a strainer. It's going to just come out as a beautiful clear juice ready to bottle or make into a jelly. We've been having our grapes on the stove cooking and extracting the juice for about 40 minutes. And a pot full of grapes could take 40 minutes to an hour. And if you kept putting others in, it could take even a little bit longer. But we're going to go ahead and show you now how you take it out of the pot and get ready to go ahead and process it in a jar. But you can see that my juice has started to come down through my tube, and I simply take some type of a container that will catch it, and we'll just do a little bit now to get it coming out. You can see that it's coming out very hot. And oftentimes people think, well, that's hot enough that I don't need to go ahead and process it. But you certainly do. Remember, you always want to process that juice. So I would get it nice. When I have enough, I could go ahead and make this into a jelly. Or if I'm simply going to bottle it, remember I've had my jars in boiling hot water to keep them hot and sterilized, because the hot juice is going to be going into it. And I'm going to bring my boiling hot steaming jar over, and I can simply begin to fill it with my juice. Not quite enough, so I need to come back to my pot. And I might even find that sometimes I have to tip it a little bit to get enough out of it. And when I get my jar totally full, giving it just a 1/4 of an inch headspace, so then I can go ahead and put my lid that's been in boiled water just simmering on, and we'll get ready to As with anything that I can, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I clean the top off very, very good. And I want just a tiny bit more into. I wipe it with a wet cloth, and then I use a dry one to make sure that I'm getting rid of any juice that could be left on the jar. With my lid wand, I'm going to remove a lid from the simmering water. Finger tighten my jar, and then I'm going to be ready to do a water bath on my jars. Now, this is only going to take a 10-minute water bath, whether it was in a pint or a quart. That means I put it in a water bath canner, which has a rack so that nothing sits on the bottom, completely submerged in water when my pot is boiling and steam is coming out of it, and that is with the lid on. Then I'll go ahead and process that for 10 minutes. And then I've got a wonderful product to put on the shelf. Nice, clear, pretty juice. I could choose to drink it right now if I wanted to, or I could take, and when I had about 4 to 6 cups extracted, I can go ahead and make it into a jam and jelly. A jelly using my pectins. And there are some fun new pectins out there now. Generally, if I'm going to do grape jelly, I will use a liquid pectin, but I don't have to. I can use new pectins that have come out. So I can use small batches, and I just measure out how much it takes, or I can use a traditional box of pectin that has been on the market for quite a while. However I do it, getting the juice out of the fruit becomes so very easy with a great juicer. You can see now as it starts to come out, it will cook. What I'll have left, and there's still quite a few grapes, but you can see the grapes start to lose a lot of their color, and eventually I will just have left in the bottom some skins and vines, and the juice will be all in the container there. I could mix juice if I wanted to. I could go ahead and put some pomegranate or some apples into my juice. I would still need to make sure that I process it afterwards, and it may change colors and be a little bit different, but it's a great, easy way, and one that I can let get going, and I don't have to watch it quite so much for an hour as the juice gets taken out of the grapes. So this, remember, is a juice steamer, and you purchase it under that as a steam juicer, and you're not buying the steam canner. This is just a juicer to take juice out of the fruits and vegetables. So have fun with it.